No, 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 no.
Okay, I covered this person during my Trump marathon, my first Trump marathon. Leah Passaniti, this person is called, and the video is 5 harsh truths for the LGBTQIA plus community moving forward. I'm interested by the title, harsh truths. It's often a good way, I think, for telling someone's priorities, whether they understand the problems in front of them or not. So let's see.
One of the nearly 500 people that subscribed from my last video. I am incredibly thankful for all the support that I've been receiving lately on my channel. It means a lot. Me building this platform, especially with recent events over the course of the last 5 days, the perspective that I have on it has changed dramatically. It has gone from something that I am passionate about and that I want to do to something that I feel like I have to do. And I'm very thankful that it's starting to feel like traction is building. And I know that the reasons why people are flocking together and, trying to find community is because they're scared. A lot of people are scared right now, me included. But like this video, for example, is the result of me spending the last...
It is too many letters. And by the way, why is queer a catch-all term, but also in the acronym? That doesn't make any sense.
5 days coming to conclusions about what the future is going to be like and what I need to be like in order to face this future. So today we are going to be talking about 5 harsh truths for the LGBTQ community. These are things that I think are important to consider moving forward because of, obviously, the recent events. So without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and jump right in to the
recent events equals Trump getting elected, by the way.
The first harsh truth. And this one may seem kind of obvious depending on who you are. Some of these may not be news to you at all, but I feel like these are important things to say and discuss. And I don't know, maybe my perspective will teach you something, even if you're already aware of how these harsh truths affect your life. So the first one is that as a part of the LGBTQ community, you do not have the privilege of being apolitical.
Nope, disagree.
So what do I mean by this? Quite simply put, because we are who we are, our lives are made political by the system that we live in. We live in a cis heteronormative culture, one that...
I actually agree. Do you know why I agree? So, cis and hetero are the default. If we weren't default cis hetero, definitely hetero, then we wouldn't be like making babies and shit. Like, we wouldn't continue. We wouldn't survive. Like, we're mammals. Mammals, there are 2 sexes. There's a male and a female. That's how they make more babies. Like, just the fact alone of what we evolved from, to me, suggests that, yeah, there's a reason why, like, hetero is the default.
Pushes being cis or hetero as, normal, as the norm.
Can we have an example of this?
And anyone that is not cis or hetero, you are deviating from the norm. You are unusual. You are in a lot of ways thought of as unnatural or just bizarre. So just by being who you are.
This is a really terrible. Calling it like cis heteronormative and then defining it by that is actually really terrible. Because the thing is, it's not even really just cis heteronormative. There's like way more normativity than just your sexuality and your gender. Like, there's lots of things that we're like normative about, if that makes sense. So to focus this heavily on like gender and sexuality and nothing else is actually a little bit kind of narcissistic, honestly. It's indicative of our need to be the ultimate victims. This person isn't incorrect, but being cis hetero is good and at the very least not a moral prescription. Yeah, sure.
You are put in a category that automatically makes your existence political. Now, to be very...
I disagree with that. I don't think my existence is political at all. I think I should get a say in that. And I think, honestly, it's these kind of people that are politicizing my existence more than anyone else.
Clear, this has been true for a long time. This is nothing new. People that are a part of the LGBTQ community, people that are not a part of cis heteronormative culture have always had to fight for their place in society. But as for what this...
What does that mean? What's an example? Hi, Rachel Dolezal. How you doing?
Actually means in real life, what it essentially boils down to is...
Have you liked the stream yet, by the way? You should like the stream. You can check out the links in my description. You can super chat using Streamlabs. You can check out some music that I've made on Spotify or Bandcamp. You can also check out my Discord. Anyway.
You have to pay attention at the very least. There are plenty of news media sources that you...
Honestly, there's lots of people out there who need to pay attention less because they drive themselves insane. They think that they're doing this out of an obligation to keep up with stuff, when all they're doing is fucking their mental health. I actually completely disagree that Like this whole, you don't have the privilege to be apolitical. No, sometimes being apolitical is exactly what you need to do. Because hey, there's going to be 4 years now where you're not going to be able to do shit. You can't vote anyone out. So like, yeah, you can drive yourself insane over shit that you can't do much about. Or you can just try and get on with your life and enjoy what you have instead of obsessing over this shit.
You can use to stay up to date with what's going on at a federal and a local level that'll allow you to have an idea of what's going on within the political system, things that very...
Yeah, listen, that's a huge piece of advice I would give to anyone. Don't think like this. Think in the way that your mental health needs protecting. You know what I mean? Think in the way that sometimes the shit gets too stressful and sometimes it hurts, like hearing about stuff that you're seeing as like against your community or whatever. That's why you need to be able to tune out sometimes. It's really important, in fact, and you shouldn't be telling people you don't have the privilege to be apolitical. Like, that's a terrible message. I think you're promoting people to like drive themselves insane. I've watched this happen and it'll keep happening, you know? Like, the more these people push this kind of thing, you're just going to keep pushing people into the ground.
Very well may affect your ability to get healthcare or to like use the bathroom that is appropriate for you or whatever. So just to give a specific example here, if you are not following...
Aaron Reed is a massive liar. Aaron Reed is full of shit. Listen, I'm sure this channel was talking about trying to do better, but this is cult shit. This is it's not actual racial dolezal. I don't believe you. I think it is, and I'm going to continue to live in my delusion of that, and also my delusion that I'm a woman. Erin Reed blocked you. She has me blocked. She had me blocked ages ago because I kept calling her a liar, because she is a liar. Erin Reed is a fucking liar. Do not follow Erin Reed. Erin Reed is a scaremongerer. Erin Reed makes the kind of content that will fucking hurt your mental health. Erin Reed is a fucking liar. I hope I've been clear enough on that. Fuck me.
Erin Reed, Erin in the Morning. She is an incredible source of information. She covers basically nationwide what's going on at state and local levels, talking about bills that are introduced. And she follows these bills from when they're introduced all the way through to when they are blocked or when they pass or when they fail. And even though you...
Yeah, what's the point in obsessing over every tiny bill? I know people in the UK that would like continuously like share all these fucking news articles about this bill or that bill in fucking Arkansas or fucking Michigan or whatever, and it's like, you're in the UK. What the fuck do you care about this? Why are you driving yourself insane over this shit? It's mad. You haven't ever said anything. Oh, it's because you follow me then, probably. Maybe you have a red name. Erin is actually a danger to trans people more than anyone else. I don't know about more than anyone else, but she's a danger to trans people, especially their mental health.
You can find other news media sources that will talk about the...
I get all my news from people who have court orders not to wear their ex-wife's clothing. Nice.
Blocked or when they pass or when they fail. And even though you can find other news media sources that will talk about these stories, Erin goes into incredible detail, and because she has personal experiences as a trans person,
sometimes that makes it worse. Sometimes, because they're trans, they're too close to this shit. Sometimes that makes it way worse because it's way too personal for them. As if trans people don't have this habit of making broad things personal, if you know what I mean.
She can give you, the real rundown of what's going on with these bills. So if you do not follow her, I definitely recommend doing so. She is going to be able to help you out with staying informed. And that is something that's like...
Ouch. Oof. Terrible first one. I hope the rest of them are better. Do not follow Erin Reed. If you're following Erin Reed, unfollow her. Block her maybe. Do what it takes. Obsessing over every tiny bill is terrible for your mental health.
Half the battle here is knowing what's going on. All right, so that's the first point, is that you need to be involved with politics in some way. You do not have the privilege of being apolitical as a...
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Your mental health is more important than obsessing over Erin Reed articles. How does everyone feel about the genocide idea? Jesus. Erin is an incredible source of drugs. Convicted felon, be surprised if he can even vote. True. I'm not searching with my voice. Let's keep going.
a person who is a part of the LGBTQ community. And as unfortunate as that is, it's just the reality that we live in. Now we're going to move on to the second point, which is that the age of liberalism is dead. Essentially, what I mean by this is that due to this
the age of liberalism is dead. I guess we'll see. I don't know if they think that socialism is due a comeback. I don't see that happening personally. I think the bread tube shit is long dead. Long dead. But hey, I'm not listening to a white man lecture me on privilege. I disavow, but also, yeah.
Last election, we need to seriously consider that the current Democratic Party is dead in the water. If you have been paying attention to the pundit class and to the...
Like, does this mean, like, not voting for them, not caring about them? Like, if trans people weren't really voting for the Dems, then the Dems probably aren't going to care about trans people because they're not voting for them anyway.
Democratic analyst class and like the people that are way up there in the Democratic Party, people that are, you know, talking on the news day after day, you will have seen that they are already blaming the progressive left for this election loss. Now, I could do an...
Here's something I will say. I don't think the far left, the progressive left, whatever, I wouldn't go around blaming them personally. Because to be honest, I think they're too useless to blame. I think the kind of margin that Trump won by, the left wasn't doing shit about that. There aren't that many of them. And most of them don't vote for any of the mainstream candidates either. So mostly just no one gives a fuck about them. I haven't seen like any clips of like people blaming the left like that. But I'll assume they're out there. And yeah, I agree that that's kind of dumb. I don't think the far left should be... has no idea what liberalism... That is entirely true, but let's see. I'm trying to be good faith, remember?
An entire video just on...
Listen, we'll watch Brianna Wu left, and I don't have to be good faith anymore, because fuck Brianna Wu, but yeah. People didn't turn out to vote because they didn't want this shit. They want some kind of normalcy. Yeah, true. Listen, let's see what they say. I'm not trying to jump down this person's throat. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm trying to be nice. Well, I'm trying to be critical without being rude at the very least.
This, because if I'm being quite honest with you, seeing how the pundit class and how the like analyst class and like these people in the Democratic Party are reacting, it's...
Are pundits and analysts classes? That's an odd way of putting it, but sure.
Really unsettling to me. I mean, there are people like Bernie Sanders who are incredibly clear-eyed about what's going on here, and Bernie Sanders has the right idea.
Here's the thing. Here's what being a progressive or a far leftist means. It means that if you're in the US, you will continuously harp on about Bernie Sanders. If you're in the UK, it means you will continuously harp on about Jeremy Corbyn.
He is correct about why this turnout was so low for Democrats. Like, here's the thing. The pundit class is saying the same thing that they said in 2016. They are saying that we were too progressive, that we were too far left, and that we...
Yeah, people do not want this kind of shit. I hate to break it to you. Like, things like the trans kids stuff is a problem. I'm wondering... I'm quite worried for this video, if I'm honest. I'm quite worried.
We need to move more to the center. We need to be more moderate. We need to kowtow to right-wing positions even more.
Moving to the center doesn't mean kowtowing to right-wing positions. Like, I consider myself somewhat a centrist. I don't think that I kowtow to far-right positions. And if people say I am, they need to provide examples. Because if someone just says that about me, that means nothing.
But this makes absolutely no sense, because if you look at the campaign that Harris ran, she was incredibly risk adverse. She ran one of the most careful campaigns I've ever seen. She was incredibly moderate. She
also had like a few months because originally it was someone else running and he had to go because he was too old. So let's not forget that before we just blame her politics, you know?
And to the right on almost every single issue. And she never
What's an example?
Mentioned things like trans healthcare or socialism or any of the things that are
Why would she mention socialism? No one in your country wants socialism. I think you're one of the main people that does at this point. People don't want it. I'm sorry. You can say liberalism is dead. Most normal people that will vote Dem are like liberals. They're not far leftists. Anyone who isn't a far leftist these days can be called far right. Yep, I'm sure. Well, listen, I get called right wing fairly often. It's almost always by progressives, which very progressive, calling a trans woman talking about her own experiences a right winger. Of course she didn't mention social. Yeah, of course. Like, that's like, you might as well just stand on stage and blast your own brains out if you're going to fucking mention socialism when you're a damn fucking presidential candidate. There we go.
Constantly brought up by the right-wing media, because it does not matter what the Democratic Party does with their messaging, what positions they hold, what policies they support. None of that really matters to the right-wing
Yeah, true. So she should push for sensible policies then?
apparatus. They are going to say what they are going to say about the Democratic Party, regardless of.
Harris came out with a plan for socialist-style price controls, got roasted for it even by liberal media, and then stopped putting out policy plans. I'll have to look at that, but you know more than I do about this.
What they do. But it's clear, it's very clear that neoliberalism is dead. Like, this
That's not what you said before. You said liberalism is dead. Those are two different things, just saying.
Democratic Party, this like neoliberal corporatist party, it's not going to be able to have a future in this country. And unfortunately, I don't have
Well, they voted for Trump. Is Trump not neoliberal in any way?
any trust that they're going to have our best interest at heart in the future moving forward. It seems clear to me that they are hell-bent on learning the wrong lessons from this election. Like, they spent a large part of the campaign, considering how short it was, trying to appeal to Liz Cheney Republicans, like never-Trumpers. And you know
How so?
how many of them they moved over? Like 0%, less than 1%. Like,
How the fuck would you know? What is this? What the fuck is she talking about? Are we going to get examples of any of this? Like, this comes across like they had some conversations in their lefty fucking Discord or something, and now this is the result. Like, getting gassed up by a bunch of other far lefties. I don't know, I was going to say something mean. I'm really trying not to be.
they moved over so few Republicans. It was an incredibly pointless strategy.
How are you measuring how many Republicans were moved over by Harris's supposed pandering to Liz Cheney never Trumpers? We've taken a hard turn at this point. The lefty equivalent of globalism is dead, yeah. Liz Cheney wasn't a never Trumper. Oh, really?
And for some reason, the pundit class keeps saying like, oh, well, maybe if we just be literally the conservatives, maybe if we just do what the right wing is doing, we'll win.
Again, like, what's an example of this? I can't trust anything this person says. You're summing up what other people are saying. Like, when you don't show a quote or anything and you just give the summary, my instinct is to not trust it, because to my mind, it seems like you've read something, interpreted it, and now you're giving me your interpretation. No one said any of your interpretation. That's the problem. So, hey, listen, advice. Quote people. Show things on screen. If you're going to rephrase something, show the original on screen. Because if you show the original on screen, it's much easier to sort of see your thinking, if you know what I mean. See it in real time.
Win over those voters. And that's just not how it works. Like, I don't understand this mentality in the Democratic Party where it's like, we need to appease our opposition. Like, that doesn't make any sense. If you're in a competition and you have a
Kamala approved Dick Cheney's endorsement of hers. Well, I need to know. Wouldn't they kind of approve most endorsements? I don't know. But hey, Jen.
opponents, there's an opposing team. You do not try to appease your opponents. You try to win. You try to win. And what's even weirder is
This is very meaningless. I'm really not. I feel like we've gone off on one, to be honest.
like, why would you try to appeal to the fans of the other team?
And now we're looping.
Like, if you're like a football team or whatever, I don't even watch sports, but like, imagine being a football team that
Already has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Let's just skip the analogy.
this just so that the other team, they will never learn the right lessons, and they do not have our best interests at heart. The Democratic Party, dead in the water. We need like a new Bernie Sanders.
She has not substantiated anything about this. There aren't teams that are popular. It's true. Yeah, it's a terrible analogy. I didn't even want to listen to it, to be honest.
Like, we need someone to have that kind of populist energy, that kind of like charisma that brings people to the voting booth, that brings people out, that makes people want to get involved. And right now, we don't have that. And honestly, I don't have.
Yeah, it's very difficult for me to think this person understands politics at all when no evidence is brought for any of what they're saying. And a lot of what they're saying, I could have heard this from, I don't know if I want to say ContraPoints, but plenty of those kind of bread tube types, like 4 years ago, like 8 years ago, at any point. This person believes the Dems lost because they didn't pivot to leftism. I'm guessing so.
have any hope that we're going to have that in the next 4 years. Okay, so I will say that one was the darkest point. That was the one that was probably mostly negative, and the rest of these do have some hope to them. So thank you for sticking through that.
My hope is they'll have some truth to them as well, because the first two weren't good, I don't think.
Move on to the next point. So the next point is really important to talk about. And if I'm being completely honest with you, it's probably the most important point out of everything on this list, because the next point is that we need to be careful with how we approach education and how we talk to ignorant people. So I'm a bit worried about this next point being misconstrued.
So what normally happens is people seem to assume everyone is ignorant and be unfriendly to anyone asking questions. We give people a very cultish version of what trans means. We consider that we are going around educating people instead of bothering to have conversations and listen to what other people are saying. I don't know. I think we do a terrible job, and I think we accuse a lot of people of being ignorant who are not.
And I want to try to be as clear as possible when I'm talking about this. So a lot of the online discourse that the LGBTQ community has is very insular. It's very much a conversation that is had within community.
True, which causes them to form echo chambers, which causes the ideas to shoot off into the distance without any input or grounding from other people. I wonder if we're going to touch on that. I doubt it, but it's true. It's true. We need to fucking rein this shit in. We needed to rein this shit in fucking years ago, and we didn't.
I think the unfortunate reality is that we have a lot of people who do not know how to bring that information outside of the community to people who are either antagonistic.
Nah, it's really easy. I manage really well. I manage fine. I'm just honest and candid, and I don't use things as dividing lines. I don't use politics as a dividing line. I'm not really a conservative, but if someone else is, I don't really care personally. It's quite simple. If you're patient with people and just explain it in an honest way that's true to you, and ignore all the culty fucking talking points, then it's really not difficult. If you treat people like people and don't treat them like ignorant people, but people who just think differently to you, and acknowledge that actually it's fine to agree to disagree occasionally, you might actually find you do okay.
To it, or just uncertain of how to take it all. So to be specific about what I mean here,
and all those groups, they get treated like ignorant people. These kinds of people online, I'm not saying her, but the kind of people she's talking about are super unfriendly to people that don't know all the shit that they supposedly know.
there are many times in real life where I have seen people who are obviously online leftists. They are up to date with the discourse. I have seen people like that interact with normal people. Or
up to date on the discourse means agrees with the cult.
Normies. And oftentimes it comes across to the other person, to the normie, as if the interaction is abrasive, hostile, and oftentimes it can...
Well, no, the interactions usually just are abrasive and hostile. Don't play defense. Just acknowledge how toxic our communities are. Just do it.
Lead to the opposite of the person becoming more sympathetic. It can make people feel more defensive about their bigotry because they feel a certain way about how they were interacted with.
Assuming they're bigoted.
The internet is amazing. It's a wonderful source of information, and it has allowed people to connect across the world. There are many great things about the internet. One bad thing about the internet is that people get used to online discourse, and when someone is online too much, they kind of forget how to interact with normal people. The reason why this is so common in the LGBTQ community is because online tends to be a really safe space for people. It allows you the opportunity from, a safe distance to interact with people, and the internet also gives you the opportunity to chat with people across the world that may have similar experiences to you. But to be totally honest with you, I think that as a community, we need to spend a lot more time thinking and talking about how we're going to bring this information to people who are not all...
No, you don't. You don't need to do any of that. You just need to be honest and candid with people. You just need to not treat it as a way to indoctrinate people into your cult. And you need to leave the talking points behind and talk to them as a human being to another human being. And not do things like assume ignorance on their part, because there's just a lot more to it than what we think. And changing gender, changing sex as a person, that's always going to be contentious to some people. I don't think trans shit is ever going to achieve 100% acceptance. I think that'll never happen myself. Like, being gay still doesn't. Like, having sex with someone of the same sex as yourself still isn't 100%. I think trans is never going to be fully like accepted. And we just have to deal with that. Sometimes someone's not going to accept you. That's fine. Sometimes someone's not going to call you the pronouns that you think they are. That's fine. That's their choice. You can't compel people's speech, and you shouldn't be trying to. Like, yeah, the last thing we need is more internal conversations. Like, we need to fucking branch out, if anything. We need to stop treating cis people as fucking aliens and as fucking enemies. We need to stop treating conservatives as, like, automatic enemies, when plenty of them are actually quite all right with this kind of shit. Weirdly, when I go out into the real world, when I've had jobs and stuff, when I've been around lots of people, what you might call normies, they've all been cool with me. They haven't given a shit that I'm transgender, because it doesn't matter. Most people don't give a fuck.
Already sympathetic to us. So to use my life as an example, I live in a red state. Most of the people that I interact with have never met a trans.
I think even treating it like I live in a red state, even that is suggestive of the problem in this person's thinking.
Person before, and they're
because you don't really know. Just because you live in a red state, you still don't know who the people that you might be around at any time are going to be like. You don't know whether those people are accepting or not. You don't know who those people vote for. Like, I guess statistically, they've got a higher chance, depending on where you live, of having voted Trump if you're in a red state, depending on the county and that. But that's about it. Like, that shouldn't really enter into your mentality, I don't think.
Their entire life. This means that these people have absolutely no idea how to talk to me about my identity. They have no idea how to approach asking me questions.
What makes you assume they want to talk to you about your identity? That's a little narcissistic. Like, hey, do you want to talk about my identity? No, not really. I was hoping we could talk about, I don't know, what you're interested in. Like, what music do you like? What sports do you play? But nope, it's your identity, okay. I'm really trying not to think that this is like a narcissism movement. It's actually quite difficult. And again, it's given me pause for thought in my life as to whether I'm even trans, because I found this so unrelatable. I'm very used to this like outlook. I'm not saying all this about this person personally. Like, just all the stuff that I see that is just like this. Your identity as a duck. See, that I would love to talk about. Hi, Rose.
Or just anything in general. People are very, very unsure of how to approach me when talking about things like gender or my.
And here's the thing, the kind of hostility people experience from like trans people sometimes talking about this kind of shit, that's making them less sure how to talk to you. That's making it harder for you. You must understand that. Thanks for inviting me to the stream. I'd really hoping we could talk about your music and about you, but I guess we could talk about your genitals and how you're shagging. That one sent me, thank you.
My transition or whatever. And because of that, that means that like if they were to ever meet another trans person, the only experience that they're going to have to draw from is like me. It's just me. So for that reason, it's really important how I talk to people in my life, in my community. It's
that I do more agree with.
Really important how I approach them. I have to be.
That I more agree with, but you don't need internal conversations with other trans people about that. Just do it. Just do it.
Be incredibly vulnerable with people. I have to put myself in the line of questioning in ways that maybe you normally shouldn't have to. But the most important aspect of this is that I have had to forgive people for their ignorance. There are a lot of people.
Oh, ouch. Ouch. Oof. Is anyone ever forgiving you for your ignorance?
Even people who voted for Trump that want to be a good person. Like, people want to be good people. There are not very many people out there who are just like, wahahaha, I am so evil. I love being evil. I love being a monster. Like, those kinds of people almost don't exist. And so while there are some people who are steeped in hatred and unwilling to learn, that is not the majority of people. And if you approach people as if they are malicious when they are ignorant, then they will become malicious and ignorant. It is not going to help the cause at all if you are rude to people in response to their ignorance, or if you are unwilling to move past.
In response to their ignorance, we're still treating it as if they're the one doing something wrong first, as if this whole time, this shitty attitude that some trans and LGBTQ plus people give off is excusable. And it isn't. It isn't. It's made things worse.
Small misunderstandings. Essentially, all of this boils down to, this whole point boils down to, don't be like an online Twitter leftist in real life.
Don't do it on Twitter either. It's fucking insufferable. Maybe reconsider the trans leftist thing altogether, quite frankly, but hey.
Do that. You have to reconcile with the fact that people have emotions and people are resistant to learning new information, especially if it's contrary to what they already believe. It takes time, compassion, understanding, and the ability to be vulnerable and put yourself in an uncomfortable position.
They can be just as rude when people claim autogynephilia. True, so them first. Yep, true. Listen, we have to start accepting AGPs. I'm gonna have to start, when people go after people like Ray or like Phil Illy and stuff on Twitter for no reason, I'm gonna have to start woke scolding, because I think it's the only way to get it across. We need to stop hating on another group that we've decided is worse than us, because that's what we're claiming the fucking cis people are doing to us.
In order to help these people arrive at a point where they can be an ally. So to be very...
Here's the thing, stop acting like you have a way of helping people. You're not helping them. You might be informing them, but it really depends on what you're telling them. If you're telling them, my gender identity is different to my sex, then you're not actually really explaining anything, because that isn't an explanation.
Very clear. Am I saying that you should put up with abuse? No. Am I saying that you should put yourself purposefully in harm's way to try to educate people who don't care about
Harm's way? What kind of harm?
you? No. But what I am saying is
stop thinking you have to educate people. Stop assuming you have anything to educate someone on. That would be amazing. Talk to people like they're normal people.
That as a community, we need to spend a lot more time and effort and energy on outreach and learning how to bring people into an understanding so that they know how to treat us in a way that makes us feel okay and comfortable.
Is that not just telling them how to treat us? I don't know. I don't know about this.
You know, we can advance our goals. Okay, I went on and on and on about that one. And that's another point where I probably could have made an entire video literally just talking about like how we need to talk to people and things to consider when you're talking to people who do.
It doesn't need a whole video. Treat them like normal people. Stop assuming you have anything to educate anyone on. Open your mind to the idea that, okay, saying stuff like that, yeah, that's fine to dunk on. I mean more like, you know, rejecting AGP on its face and shitting on people that propagate it. I don't know about the pedophilia thing, by the way. I'd have to look into that. I don't know how true that is. Approaching people to educate them is so obvious and obnoxious. Yep, I agree.
Do not agree with you necessarily or who do not understand you necessarily. But I want to go ahead and move.
And here's another thing. Learn how to agree to disagree, especially on things like gender identity, because we're not actually all in agreement that gender identity is anything. We're not all in agreement of how trans works.
Move on to the next point because there are two more, and this video I've already been recording for like 30 minutes. So the fourth point is that community involvement
in his book. To be fair, you can talk about that without making a moral statement on pedophilia, so maybe that's more the case. I don't know. Listen, I'm not familiar enough.
An organization is the best way to stay safe. So actually, I've already seen people act on this.
Community building is an organization and necessary. I feel like, haven't we already done this one? Yes.
An organization is the best way to stay safe. So actually, I've already seen people act on this.
This I agree with, but with the very, very big caveat, it's not so good when these communities become echo chambers. It's not so good when these communities become cultist and when they start rejecting anyone that doesn't agree with your doctrine. You have to be very careful with that.
Impulse. A lot of people, when they are struggling, often try to turn towards, their community or people in their life to seek support, reassurance, all that other stuff. And that's incredibly natural. And that's just...
And the thing is, just because you know a bunch of also mentally ill people in your neighborhood, that doesn't mean that they're the right people for you. Just because you know a bunch of other trans people in your neighborhood, they might not be the kind of people you want to be around. You probably shouldn't assume that someone has your best interests at heart because you're both trans.
just like the human condition, we're social creatures. But this point kind of ties back to the second point about the Democratic Party failing us and no longer being able to stand up for us like they have been in the past. The politicians in Washington are not going to do.
There's no awareness of why things have gotten bad. There's no awareness whatsoever. And if there is, there's no discussion of it. And that makes me suspicious, honestly. That makes me wonder why this person doesn't want to engage in that kind of thing. Because they should. Everyone should, in my opinion. It's very important to understand where we've gone wrong. That we push things about trans kids, people don't want this shit. Trans sports, people don't want this shit. All these stupid boycotts, all these telling people what games they can play and what language they can use and all that shit. People don't want that either. There's so many things. And the problem is when someone can't describe the problem accurately, then a lot of this rings hollow, unfortunately. I would love for any of these progressive types to like accurately to accurately assess the problem, to accurately assess that something like trans kids is an extremely optically bad policy. Maybe people voted against the extreme. Yeah.
Anything to keep you safe. What will keep you safe, and this is almost a guarantee, I can almost promise you this, is finding community and learning how to organize. Now,
that's a guarantee? Wait, we were watching that Aaron Green thing the other day. It kind of sounds like they ended up in some weird queer community, and it turned out all of them were like psychopaths. Because like the people that Aaron Green was talking about seem fucking crazy, and she seems at least a little bit crazy. Like fucking a 15-year-old when you're 21 is not the best thing you can do. Like, let's be honest. You need to adopt neighborhood rather than community. Rather be in a neighborhood with my fellow LGBT than a community that is now disingenuous. Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Now, does this mean that you need to be a community leader? No, not necessarily. If you go looking, you will probably already find that there is some kind of queer or community support network available to you in your location already. It could be.
Yep, there was one local to me. It was a complete cult. Stayed the fuck away because after not a huge amount of time, everything they were saying on like social media and stuff started to sound completely fucking insane to me. I didn't feel confident that I could voice my own opinions without getting hate for it, so I just stayed the fuck away and continued being on my own. And the people I knew were just people I worked with, and then like my partner and a family, which wasn't the worst thing in the world, to be fair. I don't need other trans people. It's cool to meet other trans people, especially when we have like anything in common, you know, which doesn't happen every day. But like, yeah, I don't need other trans people. I don't care if no one actually understands my trans plight or whatever the fuck, you know?
As simple for you as reaching out to the structure that's already there and finding that community and participating in it. But the way in which everyone's going to approach community and organization is going to be.
Don't change yourself, by the way, just to be part of a community. Never do that. If they're saying a bunch of stuff that you don't agree with, you should be able to voice your opinions.
Different. Me, for example, I'm here on YouTube. I'm doing this thing right now. What I'm doing right here, right now, is trying to build community. I think over the next 4 years, visibility, representation, and community building online is going to be incredibly important. So like right now would be the perfect moment for me to say that I have a Discord and we have nearly 100 people in there right now. And I'm hoping to grow this Discord because I want it to be a place where people can communicate, people can make friends across the country. If you live in a red state, you can make a blue state friend and vice versa. And we can create a network so that we can support each other and help each other get through the next 4 years. So to get to my Discord, you just go to my description of this video. You go to the description, there's a link tree. Click the link tree. It'll open up a page that has all of my various socials, including the Discord. Click the Discord. There's a short verification process where we like ask you some questions and stuff. And that's it. I hope to see more of you in the Discord because I think that bringing people together and creating a community of people that can help support each other is just like my primary function in this. Of course, I want my videos to be informative and entertaining and all that stuff. That is what I want in the long term. I want to be a great content creator, but I'm really in this because like for me, this is how I can make a difference. So yeah, online communities are important, but in-person stuff almost as equally as important. Being involved in your local community, you know, see if there are any local offices that you can run for. Like if you're in a good position.
What are the questions? I mean, if you want the link, then I don't know. Look the information you can see on screen at the moment up. Yeah.
Position in life where you feel pretty secure and safe and stuff like that, and you feel like you're able to, then do it. Run for a local office. That will make more of a difference than you think it will. I mean,
really depends on what kind of person you are. If you are a Sophie Molly type, then do not bother. If you're over radicalized and want to say a bunch of dumb shit, want to use your platform to just fucking virtue signal or be a fucking narcissist, then don't bother.
I mean, like I mentioned, I'm like the only trans person.
What does Vogue on poetry mean? I've not heard that. I've not heard that term before.
That everyone that meets me knows. Like I am their only source of information about, you know, the trans community. So imagine if I was in like local office, I would reach hundreds of thousands of people potentially and sway their opinions on what it means.
Again, really, really depends. You're saying the right things. If you're appealing to people, then yeah. If you're doing what you think you want and no one else, then possibly not. You might actually make things worse. It's a real gamble, like running for office. I mean, Jesus Christ. Can you imagine if that fucking Sophie Molly person actually got elected in Aberdeen South or wherever the fuck it was? Like, do you really think, you know, it'd be a very sink or swim moment? Do you think she'd swim? I personally don't, because she seemed to know nothing about politics. All she talked about was trans issues and Palestine.
Means to be a trans person or to be a part of the community. But okay, I feel like that one's probably the second most important point. I feel like community involvement, organization, that's going to save lives. Like there are going to be people in some really tough positions throughout the next 4 years. But if you have connections, if you have an out, if you have a buddy system, if you have this stuff, then it's going to make your life a lot easier. You are going to feel a lot less alone and you're going to have a lot easier time figuring out a path forward when things get kind of crazy. All right. And so now we are on the last.
I think we're kind of assuming what someone's experience is going to be like. Just meeting trans people as a trans person isn't necessarily going to go well for you, especially if you insist on staying firm with your beliefs, especially if you insist on being yourself, like unironically. I can't believe I'm using that fucking phrase, being yourself. Vogue on poetry, the most horrible and obnoxious thing in the entire universe, only survived by one who distracted himself by chewing off his own legs. Oh wow, okay, I understand.
Last point, this has actually been a longer video than I thought.
Hi, Helen Hodgkinson. How you doing?
It would be. But the last point is that you need to learn self-defense and you need to learn how to spot unsafe situations and unsafe places. So what I mean by self-defense can vary from person to person. At a fundamental level, we all need to be working on our physical health and we need to be...
Listen, I'm a skinny motherfucker, but if I wanted to hurt someone, I could. Let's just put it that way.
Preparing for what could be a rather rough situation. I just want to say that, like, I really hope that none of you watching this video ever have to use self-defense to protect yourself physically. And I also really hope that none of you end up in unsafe situations. But now more than ever, this feels like something that's really important to talk about. Now, of course, I don't want to come across as ableist or anything like that. This is all going to vary based on context and who you are and what your life situation is like. So for example, self-defense could include like having a loyal and protective pet, like a dog, or it could include learning how to operate a firearm for self-defense. I'm not...
Weapons are risky, isn't it? In the UK, I'm sure. Like, if you carry a knife, you're more likely to have it used on you than against someone else. Obviously, guns aren't legal here, but it can happen with guns too. I've seen a video of, there was a woman and her daughter, and this guy broke into their house, and like the older woman, like the mother of the other person, was like holding a gun on him the whole time while they were talking to him, like right near his face. At some point, he gets it off her and like shoots her dead with it. Like, that kind of shit happens. You have to be very careful. Like, I don't know how much having a gun can actually be more of a false sense of security rather than actual security.
Not saying that all of us need to go out and take karate classes and learn how to like do Muay Thai or anything like that. Like, I'm not saying that any of us need to learn Taekwondo or like go out there and start doing, you know, like black belt level martial arts. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that...
Why not? That sounds based.
Your defense is not necessarily guaranteed. Your safety is not necessarily guaranteed. There are some people out there.
That's the same with cis people, by the way.
There who are looking to harm people like you and me. And we need to be ready for that kind of thing. And you need to be aware of those kinds of situations. As far as spotting unsafe situations and places, I think that a lot of that kind of has to deal with knowing the community where you live. Like, you need to know the disposition of people where you live. But yeah, that's going to wrap up all 5 points, all 5 of the harsh truths that I had to share with you and sort of like the advice that I would give based on those truths. And I really sincerely hope that this was useful to you in some capacity. Again, I wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who has been supporting my channel recently. The recent growth and support.
Okay, I think that's it. I don't know. Why don't you let me know what you think? Why should I sum up every time? Why should I...
Wait!
Shut up. Why should I provide the summary? You know what? Tell me what you think in the comments. This'll be a video, probably.